Before we dive into today's tale, I want you to picture something. Right now, as this video begins, there's a pencil sketch of Loid Forger, better known by his codename, Twilight, on the screen.
Loid Forger.
His sharp eyes, his perfectly combed blonde hair, the calm but determined expression on his face, all captured in simple graphite lines. It's like looking at the man behind the mask, the spy behind the smiles.
お前らだって人間のバカな争いに巻き込まれるのは不意だったろう。終わりにしよう。
So let's step into his world and hear his story. Loid wasn't always Loid. In fact, the man we know by that name is someone who has lived many lives, worn many faces, and held countless secrets. From the very start, his world was surrounded by conflict, uncertainty, and the weight of responsibilities far beyond his years. The shadows of his early life carved him into who he would become, a man who could blend into any role, who could slip into another identity as easily as most of us change clothes. But beneath that polished mask, there was still a boy who once longed for peace, who wanted a world without the fear and pain he had grown up with. As he grew older, that boy turned into a professional. He dedicated himself to a cause bigger than himself, one that demanded sacrifice. That's when he took the name Twilight. Becoming a spy wasn't just a career choice, it was survival, purpose, and destiny all tied into one. He trained until every skill, from disguise to deduction, became second nature. He could walk into a room and see everything, the exits, the threats, the smallest details others would miss. But what truly set Twilight apart wasn't just his skill, it was his ability to become whoever the mission needed him to be. He wasn't just wearing disguises, he was the disguise. Twilight had completed countless missions. He had played diplomat, soldier, doctor, and even ordinary passerby. But then came an assignment unlike any before. This mission didn't call for brute strength or elaborate infiltrations. It required something far more complex, creating a family. Imagine the irony. A man who had spent his life detached from personal bonds, now forced to build the very thing he had long kept at arm's length. For Twilight, this was more than just unusual. It was unthinkable. But he accepted, because failing a mission was never an option. And so, Loid Forger was born. The first piece of this puzzle was finding a child. On paper, this was simply a strategic step, nothing personal, but then he met Anya. From the outside, she seemed like just another child. But almost instantly, Loid noticed she was different, sharp in ways children usually weren't, with expressions that caught him off guard. Of course, he didn't know the full truth about her, but something in her made him pause. At first, his focus was on practicality. The child had to fit the mission's requirements. Yet, as time went on, he found himself softening. Anya wasn't just a piece of the plan anymore. She was a little girl who looked at him not as a spy, not as a mask, but simply as Papa. The family couldn't be complete without a mother. And so, Loid's path crossed with Yor, a woman with secrets of her own. At first, their partnership was purely functional, a role to play. But like every good story, pretending began to blur with reality. Yor's kindness, her quiet strength, and her surprising quirks added a warmth to their home that Loid hadn't expected. Suddenly, the mission house began to feel like, well, a home. Loid's life became a delicate balance. On one side, the world of espionage, danger, secrecy, lies. On the other, the world of family school meetings, dinners at the table, ordinary everyday life. Most people struggle to manage work and home, but for Loid, it wasn't just work. It was a world of codenames, missions, and shadows. And home wasn't just home, that's where the beauty of his story lies. Because slowly, without him realizing, the disguise began to matter. Loid had never thought of himself as a father, but life had other plans. Anya's laughter, her little victories, even her chaotic mischief began to chip away at the armor he had built around himself. He found himself doing things he never thought a spy would do, staying up late to help with homework, worrying about a child's friendships at school, caring about whether she was happy. And with Yor by his side, the role of husband also started to mean something more than cover. To the outside world, Loid remained Twilight, the perfect spy. Unshakable, brilliant, always 10 steps ahead. But to those inside his small home, he was Papa, the man who cooked breakfast, who walked Anya to school, who tried sometimes awkwardly to understand what family really meant. What makes Loid's story so moving is that beneath the flawless disguise, he was rediscovering the most human parts of himself, the parts that missions and code names had buried for years. Loid's life is a constant tug-of-war between two realities. One demands precision, calculation, and sacrifice. The other demands warmth, patience, and heart. And somehow he manages both. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but with a determination that shows us who he really island. In his daughter's eyes, he's not a spy. He's just dad. And maybe that's the greatest mission he's ever taken on, not saving the world, but learning how to be part of one small family. And now, as we close this chapter, let's look back at that pencil sketch we mentioned at the beginning. The sharp eyes, the man of many masks captured on paper. Loid Forger reminds us of something powerful, that sometimes the hardest missions aren't the ones fought in shadows, but the ones fought in our own hearts. To let others in, to care, to love, that's the true challenge. So, whenever you think of Loid, remember this: behind the perfect spy, behind the flawless disguises, is a man who discovered that family might just be the greatest assignment of all. Thanks for joining me in this story. If you enjoyed the sketch and the journey of Loid Forger, stay tuned, we've got plenty more tales to tell, each one waiting to jump off the page and into your hearts.